As we've been talking about, 8 of the banking industry's biggest leaders headed to Washington this morning to testify before Congress on how they spent their TARP funds. Congressman Greg Meeks and Scott Garrett both sit on the House Financial Services Committee, and they both joined us this morning from Washington. Congressman, good morning to you both. Good to see you guys.
Good morning.
Congressman Meeks, this could go one of two ways. This could be a public flogging where we embarrass them and talk about things that have already happened, or it could be some sort of discovery process where we find out how interested they are in taking part in this government bank rescue plan. Which is it going to be? It's
going to be both, I think. I think that you're going to hear some members of Congress ask some questions that's going to be tough and embarrassing. And others are going to be asking discovery-type questions to try to figure out where do we go to make sure that we're successful in moving forward and that the American public understands where the next $350 billion will go, how it's going to be spent, that and learn some lessons. So I think you're going to see a combination of both from both sides of the aisle. How much time, Congressman Garrett, are we going to spend talking about corporate jets and things like that? I mean, how much of this is going to be an attempt to pacify taxpayers who are rightfully upset at some of these executive perks?
Well, if you were watching, as I'm sure you were, the SEC hearings, we had some folks on the other side of the aisle who spent a lot of time just lambasting the SEC and the way that they handled matters, what have you, almost over the top as far as that, as opposed to really trying to get some information out. My bet is you'll hear a lot of questions about the corporate jets first. How did you guys get here? Did you fly here? And that sort of thing, which really doesn't tell us much. There'll be a whole lot of questions about the bonuses and the payments. And then finally, we'll get to some of the meat of the issues is, what can be done going forward to address the credit crisis out there and get the banks lending again, which is at the end of the day is really what we need to be focusing on.
Congressman Meeks, what's your first question today?
Well, my question is going to be about whether or not moving forward the mitigation of mortgages for homeowners and whether or not they've got sufficient personnel in place, because Secretary Geithner is going to come out next week talking about the second portion of the TARP money dealing with home mitigation, and we want to make sure that individuals are able to stay in their home. So my question is going to be around mitigation of mortgage foreclosures and try to make sure that there's an appropriate plan that they can work with Secretary Geithner so that we can keep as many people who can afford to be in their homes in their homes.
Yeah, and Congressman Garrett, your question, and also your response to Geithner's plan yesterday.
Well, on the question is a couple things. One is, these guys basically signed a contract that I think nobody else would ever sign. You or I would never sign, and that is to accept the money. And as you pointed out before, a lot of them didn't want to accept the money. They actually entered into a contract with the government saying that the government can change the terms on them anytime they want going forward. And obviously one of those aspects is the compensation, what have you. The second aspect of it is what really is the problem out there? Is it the fact that the underwriting standards are going up to such a level that people just can't meet them anymore? Or is it the fact that there's too much debt out there? It's not a credit problem so much as it is a debt problem, that people are just not actually able to meet the criteria anymore. So I think you've got to get to some of the fundamentals. Yeah. To your second question, as far as Geithner's proposal, I was somewhat disappointed in it. It missed the mark on a couple points. It missed the mark as far as giving us an exit strategy. How do we ever actually get out of this thing once we get into it? And it missed the mark also as giving us some barometers to go by, some standards, some peg marks that we can look to going forward to say, well, is the plan really working? They never told us that with TARP 1. They never told us that with TARP 2. And now we're basically told that we have a TARP 3 coming down the road. And still we have nothing to have a gauge by.
Really quickly, Congressman, last word. Would you agree that it was too vague?
Well, no, I think that finally we're moving forward and there's going to be more definition on the plan that's going to be rolled out. But I'm also hoping that today's hearing that we can begin to repair the credibility issue that some of the CEOs have and those companies with the American public. And so I think there's the way that we can do that, because to a large part that's what causes a lot of the issues that we're hearing about and keeps us from getting away from the meat. This is an opportunity to repair that credibility so that we can move forward, because the truth of the matter is we all have to root for these CEOs and these financial institutions to get it right, so that we can fix our financial system.
That's a good point. Congressman, we'll be watching closely. Thanks for your time ahead of that.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right, coming up, a diamond in the rough, Ruff's newsletter, that is. He has hundreds